And we're live.
Are we live?
Hello.
Oh, hello everyone.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, it's obviously Thursday again. Thursday at 12:30. That's why you can see all our faces here for our weekly pop-up career Q&A. If you've never seen this before, this is basically kind of the team at WOBB getting together to answer any career-related questions you have. So if you have any questions, you can just ask them in like the comments below. But this is streaming on what, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, I believe. So yeah, wherever you are, just say hi in the comments and we'll see you. Right?
Yeah, say hi to us.
Say hi. Yeah.
We did have a week off last week.
Oh, we did. Oh, yeah. So I feel a bit rusty already.
So yeah, hi everyone. Those who just joined us, please just let us know whether you can hear us clearly or not. You feel free to ask us any career-related questions. We'll be picking questions from the floor. But before we start, I do want to highlight that Shopee is currently hiring for 4 positions. So do check them out at wobbjobs.com/Shopee. They're hiring for the 4 positions that you can see available on screen right here. But with that being said, let's get on with the questions, right? The first question of the day. So first question of the day is, what would an employer's impression be if my work experience in my previous 2 companies were only about 10 months long each?
That's a tough one because honestly, if it's your first 2 jobs and it's only about 10 months, they're going to have like a pretty big concern, right? And I imagine you can guess what their concern would be. I mean, they're concerned whether you're able to adapt to working life or not. Maybe you're resilient or not. Maybe your expectations of work, are not quite aligned. That's why you're not staying longer than 10 months. Because most employers actually understand that in 10 months, right, in reality, you actually contribute very little. You spend probably like the first 6 months kind of learning the ropes a little bit, and if you leave after 10 months, right, it will be a concern. So the big question mark they would have, they might still interview you if it's only 2, but your answer to why did you leave each job has to be something that they find reasonable. Right, which may be why I suppose it depends on the reason, but maybe a challenge.
Yeah,
I think maybe one thing you can take note also, if let's say your 10-month stint was because you're a contract worker and stuff like that, then that wouldn't really affect their impression so much, because as a contract worker or project-based worker, you are meant to have shorter stints instead of longer terms. So it still depends also, like if you're actually just working full-time or are you a contract worker.
Yeah, try not to paint it in such a negative way of the previous companies that you worked in if you were to have left those companies because of negative reasons. You can tell the truth, but in a more polished way. Don't talk bad about your previous employer and stuff like that.
Yeah, so this was actually a question from last week, so one of the questions that we did manage to answer. So if the person that asked this question, if you're still from 2 weeks ago, right? If you're still somehow watching this, if you can clarify what those reasons are, it will be very helpful. Yeah, but if not, then I suppose it'll be a challenge. The one thing I would suggest very strongly to you is not to say, oh, because the next thing was a better opportunity, because like I left because of a better opportunity, then 10 months later I left this one also because of a better opportunity. That just shows like you have no staying power, you can't get stuff done, and it will be a big concern for employers. And you're a bit of you will come across as a bit of opportunist, right? Whether or not you actually are like this is just the impression that the employers will get. Like there's not much loyalty to the company, even though after they've trained you, and then which is obviously it's free choice. You're still allowed to do it, but the employer will also have this impression, right? So yeah, just don't say like, oh, better opportunity. Make sure your reasons seem very reasonable, very practical, very strong, that an employer can understand why you left.
Yeah, it has to be like properly justifiable. And not just like, oh, I left the job because I'm tired of it, or like minor inconveniences that you leave. Oh, we do have a lot of people joining us now. So hi everyone. For those of you that just joined us, we are answering questions from the floor right now. Any career questions that you have for us, drop it down from wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and we'll be answering them, right? So with that being said, let's pick up another question for us. If a young professional lost his job during the COVID downturn, then how can he share it positively with HR in the future about why he changed his job during this time? This is very much a continuation from what we just said just now, right? In a sense where, unfortunately, this is, you lost your job not because you want to quit or you wanted to move on, but it was because of this external factor that you cannot control. I'm sure like HR, HR practitioners would definitely understand. It's not like anybody wanted to be fired or like leave their job because they were forced to this situation, right? But one advice that I have to say to you in general is that in your interview, don't ever whether negatively or positively, don't ever reminisce about your old position. Like, I could have, if it's not for COVID-19 or if it's not for whatever situation, then I could have been better off, or I could have been in a very good situation. You will want to position yourself as a more forward-looking person. I unfortunately did lose the job because of COVID-19, but I want now that, I want to bounce back immediately. I want to join a company, and then cater your narrative more towards why you're looking forward to join that company and why you want to fill in that role and what kind of value you can bring into the company, instead of just airing a dirty laundry for a previous employer, or just talking the past, which obviously you can't change anymore.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to how to put it. Sorry, let me gather my thoughts.
Okay, I'll go first, Kenny. So one thing to know is that you didn't actually change your job in that sense. You lost the job and you have to find a new one. Right, it wasn't really, you did change that, but it wasn't really by choice, right? So I think 2020 is the year where a lot of employers are a lot more forgiving if they know that your job was affected by the pandemic or the economy, right? But the number one question that they might have in their mind is that, did you lose your job because, let's say, the business was suffering in general, and you're just as a batch of employees, you lost your job? Or did you lose your job because you're not performing, right? And the business decided not to keep you. So those two things, right? Whether they let you go because they just didn't have the money to keep you there, or they let you go because you're not performing. Because if you're not performing, if you lost your job because you're not performing, then that would be a concern for the new employer. So just make sure that when you describe the way in which that job is lost, the new employer can understand that, it's probably something that was across the board. You were actually a performer in the company, but not by choice. The company just didn't have enough money to hold the headcount that they have, right? And you were just one of the people maybe in this position that wasn't needed in the company anymore, right? But not tied to individual performance. So this is an important point to make.
Okay, so I remember what I wanted to say. I think one thing that can really help you is a lot of people think that, I got retrenched because of COVID-19, and telling this to employers would make them pity you. It's important that it doesn't matter which company you move on to afterwards, that you are genuine in the way that you want to join them, because employers won't take pity on you just because you got retrenched. Unfortunately, that's the reality, and you're not the only person. But when they are looking to hire, it's important for you to portray yourself as a person who's looking to join the company for a long time, and you're generally interested in the company, and you're not just desperate for a job, even though that may be the truth. You need a job to survive, but you want to make sure that you come off as a genuine applicant, and you really want to join the company and be part of it, instead of just, I'm just going to work here. And because if you come off as a person that seems like, if a better opportunity comes and you leave, then there's no point hiring you in the first place.
Yeah.
Pretty much covered what I wanted to say.
So for anyone watching this, you can actually ask questions to us in the comments and we'll answer them live. So I see there's a couple more questions that have come in. What's the next one?
Next one is from Eric.
Hello, Eric.
I want to ask. Hello, Eric. So his question was, I want to ask, I'm currently on contract for a year at my current company, but chances to be a permanent staff is slim. What is the best solution you all can advise me?
Chances to be a permanent staff is slim. Well, in my mind, it's just look for a new job, right? I mean, that's the only thing I'm thinking of. I'm assuming it's not even your choice whether or not you want to stay in the company. The company maybe is just not going to renew your contract. So there are two things you can do, right? So number one, if there's a way you can find out why it's not being renewed, or wait, let me try to understand the question. Chances to be permanent staff is slim. Is there any chance that so you're talking about converting from a contract role to a permanent role, is it? So if converting is not easy, the second choice you can have is to find out if it can be renewed. There might be some positions that employers always hire on contract. Maybe it's the kind of position where they don't know how long term it's going to be, but you can definitely explore renewal. But the second thing I'll say is that for practical reasons, right? Even though you manage to renew the contract in your current employer, you should look for a new job first, right? Just in case, because you never know, right? So don't just bet on the place that you're currently in, and have plan B.
That's it. That's all our thoughts for this.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's it. I think everyone's just thinking, like,
very good answer. So nothing to add.
A new job, man. Go to wobbjobs.com. That's where you're gonna find.
But don't quit without a job. Without a backup plan. Don't quit without a backup plan.
Yeah. So try to keep your current one, but at the same time, keep your eyes open if it's a real concern. You don't have to go to the new job, by the way, but you can interview. It's still up to you later.
Yeah, no harm interviewing, because at the end of the day, you're not an employee right after the interview. You still got multiple stages interview or offer letter that to sign. So yes, do have backup plan. That's our answer. So moving on to Hannah. Hannah has a question. Should I maintain a job with higher pay but no security, plus benefits, or change and take another job with the benefits and security but lower pay? Higher pay but no job security.
In this period of time, I would say the second one. Because job security is very important nowadays, right? You don't want to just don't have any job security and lose your job the next day. But then again, there are many other factors that plays into this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, well, it depends on why you think there's no security. I'm very curious. Is it like a very young startup? They're just starting out. But somehow maybe they offered you a higher than market rate kind of pay, but that it's a very unstable future versus a normal company, a typical company, but they offer less. So yeah, I'd be very careful not to get trapped by money, purely by money, for money's sake. I actually know sometimes companies do pay over market, because there are situations where they need a certain type of talent. Maybe they have not much else to offer except money, if that makes sense, because they're not that stable. Maybe as a culture, it's pretty messy or chaotic inside. It's very hard for them to hire talent. So they just said, how much you're paying? Oh, you're being paid 4,000. I'll pay you 6,000. I'll pay you 7,000. Just come. And in the short term, you might be like, oh, that's amazing. I'm going to take it. But then when you enter, right, it's going to be hell. And then the company might not last. I'm just painting one side of the picture. If you really can imagine that is a possibility, don't get mesmerized by the money, right? Think a bit longer term.
Yeah. Long term is always the way to go, right? Every company can promise you a lot of good things in the short term, but that's 1 month salary you're living on. Whether you're not even sure whether your next month your job will still be there or not, right? So looking at it from another perspective, is if you're still very adamant on taking the job with the higher pay, make sure you have enough saving to pad you out, just in case that you don't have just in case, touch wood, you lose your job already, you lose your position, make sure you're enough saving to survive during that time when you're still actively looking for another position. But if you don't, then definitely think longer term. Okay, that's all our thoughts for this. Is there anything else to add? No? Okay. So moving on to the next question. Judy, what are the progressive or innovative companies actively hiring now based on WOBB statistics? Oh.
There's a lot.
Just go to wobbjobs.com.
Yeah, that's right. All of them are actively hiring. That's why they have an ad.
I mean,
Shopee is hiring.
Yeah, Shopee is hiring.
Yeah. Shopee.
Yeah,
wobbjobs.com/Shopee. Oh, I'm pointing the wrong direction. There you go.
I'm figuring out the point. wobbjobs.com/Shopee.
Shopee. But there are lots of other employers that are hiring. And I'm some positive news for those who are listening, right? So currently on WOBB, obviously during MCO, the number of jobs or number of job ads on our platform dropped significantly because everyone was on lockdown, right? So it was actually the peak before MCO started. But right now, as of 2 days ago, we actually have more jobs on WOBB right now than before MCO started. I don't know whether that sentence makes sense. As in, we are much better positioned than before the whole chaos happened, basically. So it's positive, it's growing. So life in WOBB is kind of back to normal. I know as a market it's not yet, but what I'm trying to say is a lot of the companies that are using us are really actively hiring right now, and we're back at 100%, right, in terms of operationally.
And also, Judy, I don't know if you're aware, but if you notice the past few weeks, we've actually been going live quite a few times on a show called Employer Spotlight. These are actually employers on WOBB that are hiring for more, like a lot of positions. Some of them are no longer available because they are only available for 48 hours. But it goes to show you that for the past few weeks or so, we've been so actively promoting these jobs because employers are actually back hiring. If you are interested in them, there are still some positions that are still open. You can go through our feed and sort of look at the companies that are currently actively hiring. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or look out for the future employer spotlight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow us and you see who's really actively hiring.
Yeah, follow us, visit our website. A lot of employers right now are actually, they acknowledge the situation that unfortunately a lot of good quality candidates were retrenched during this unfortunate times, right? So that's why they're seizing this opportunity to, market themselves in hopes of getting your attention, of those candidates that are actually of really good quality to join their company. Candidates that were previously not available, that's what they're doing right now. They want to take those quality people and place them in the company. So yeah, all hope is not lost. In fact, there is a lot of hope right now. So just visit our website and continue to apply, right? So, before next question, is a shout out from Gary. Kenny,
Kenny, you have a fan, Kenny. Kenny has a fan on TikTok. Yeah, for those people who don't realize, WOBB just started a TikTok account and it's really, really doing well. I literally had a friend just randomly come up to me yesterday and say, "Wow, you guys, your TikTok game very strong, huh?" Seriously, so random. We weren't even talking about social media or marketing on TikTok, and she just mentioned that. So yeah, go check us out.
Follow us. We're pretty funny there.
And watch us embarrass ourselves for your entertainment.
That's right. Watch them embarrass themselves. I have a cameo role once in a while. You see me.
Gary's role is to laugh at us.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next question then. Next question is, I resigned my previous job during MCO due to forced unpaid leave, selected by the company because I was the most junior among all. Now I already secured a new job, but the pay was half from my previous, also because of COVID. They never stated until when. Should I stay or wait for the increment or look for a new job?
Do you like this company? So first my question, do you like this new company? And has it been agreed with them that it's half of what you intended it to be? I hope that question makes sense. That means the employer knows that they're paying you half, and one day they would reverse it, right? So as long as you know. But because there's a difference between them just paying you half of your previous salary, but they have actually no intention of kind of paying you the full amount. You never know, right? So So those are my two questions. If the answer is yes, that means you like the company and the company has sort of promised you to restore your full salary when things are better, then I don't see any reason why you wouldn't kind of soldier on with them a little bit. Again, something I also said earlier, you can still interview in other places, just to be safe. But from my point of view, it's sort of kind of good enough in some sense. Like I will feel fortunate, okay, I have a company I like, they promise me to restore my salary when things are better. So I think that's overall a positive, and you're probably in a lot better position than a lot of people that have lost their jobs. So yeah, because if you look and you change again, you may be in a worse position after that. You never know.
Same thing might happen again.
Yeah, because it's like, now the market is very uncertain. So it sounds like it's good enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's important to keep in mind, even though we said that there are more jobs now, there are also even more people looking for jobs. So the fact that you have some level of security is maybe something you should keep for now.
Yeah, but I want to clarify those two things: that you like the company and the company realizes that they will restore your salary to its full amount. Yeah, if neither of those two are true, then you may consider looking out, I guess.
Yeah, anything to add?
No, all good.
No, all good, right? Okay, so we got the next question then. He asks, how do I answer the question below? What can you do that other candidates can't? Also, what to say when you resign due to management restructure? Not happy to work with someone, be honest or say something else? Thanks.
Oh, lots of questions in one.
Yeah.
Let's take it one by one. Right?
Yeah, let's do it one by one.
Question.
What can you do that other candidates can't? So how do you stand out, essentially?
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, how do you stand out, right? How do you stand out?
I think when interviewers ask this question, right, they're not actually looking for a magical answer. They're looking at what are you willing to offer, and it's sort of like a personality test. They're seeing your motivations, your how do you market your stuff, essentially, what existing skill sets you have, and how confident in your own abilities that you can contribute to the company in the future. Essentially, that's that, because you don't know what other candidates can do. It's a pretty vague question for you. So the only thing you can do now is based on your own abilities, based on your own understanding. How can you market your best self to them? Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah,
I think
it's also... Yeah, then I'll go.
I think I mentioned this a couple of times. Basically focus on your previous achievements. I mean, if this is not your first interview, it's not your first job, you had previous job already, right? Focus on what you have achieved in your previous job, and then bring that forward to this interview and show them that, oh, this is what you achieved previously. And obviously, like what Kenny said, you don't know what other candidates can or can't. This is what you present to them. Basically, when they ask you this question, they want to know what you can contribute to the company. Yeah.
Basically, it's very much along the lines of like, what are your strengths?
Yeah.
Where you don't answer like, I'm very proactive. I have very good teamwork. I have very good leadership. Like everybody says that, right? No, undoubtedly, maybe you do have all those qualities. You should, like, if you're a good quality candidate, right? But back it up with like actual experiences or like situation. On when you talk about leadership, don't just say, oh, I have leadership and leave it at that full stop, right? Show a time where you actually, exercise any of these values that you communicated to the employee. That's how I would answer this question.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that you're able to relate to the company. It's an opportunity in a way for you to also show that you research the company, the position, and what you believe is important to them. So say, for example, this is a bit of a generic answer. If I'm interviewing, right, and someone asks me, I might say something like, oh, I realize you're a startup and currently there's a lot of uncertainty in the market. So what the number one most important thing for you is for your team to be able to be very adaptable, your team to be willing to, for things to be messy and change roles if they have to do it. And previously, in my previous company, I've been through this several times, right? So originally I was doing this And then at some point, suddenly the company decided we should shift and do that. And I shifted to my new role, and this is how I adapted to it. And we did very well after that. So when you give this example, then they're like, this is who we are looking for, right? And you do it through like a story that you related to the previous, your previous employment, right? And you tie it back to what they think they want. So that makes it very believable, right? There's evidence. And it shows that you understand them, right? And what they're looking for.
Mm.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of questions in this question. Yeah. So what to say when resigned due to management restructure, not happy to work with someone, be honest or say something else.
Oh.
Yeah, I would never say I'm not happy to work with someone. Most employers will see that as a problem because I hope you don't. You're not offended by what I'm about to say, but it can come across as immature and unprofessional. That's what the employer is going to think. Because the employer is going to think, hey, this is work. You don't necessarily like everyone. It's like you're playing together on a football team like that. Right, the players don't necessarily like each other, but together they are strong and they work together as a team and they win games together. It's not that they are friends. And in the work environment, very often it's the same. Now there are some companies where people are genuinely like friends. They have that kind of culture, and that's very good. But it's not something to be expected, And even if the company is like that, let's say, I think in WOBB in general, we are a bit like that also. Like people are genuinely friends in the company. But if I'm interviewing someone and they say this to me, like, oh, I didn't like this person, I decided to leave. It will be a concern to me because I wouldn't want someone to come in and disrupt the harmony in the company. Yeah. What if you see someone you don't like and then suddenly there's conflict and all that, and you're not able to work well with each other? So those are the concerns. So I would not say you left because you didn't like someone, because that will be the thought process of the employer.
It's a really huge red flag. Like when you put two persons in a room, no matter who also, there's bound to be conflict. One, it's just like how you handle the conflict, maturely, and how you handle it professionally, right?
Yeah. But I have to say one thing, by the way, just to clarify, it's actually very normal. Yeah, don't feel bad about it. It's actually very normal when you're in a workplace and you actually work with people that like you don't get along with.
Yeah,
it's very normal. And I do know people who are, who have very high standards of work. They're very good at their job, and they might also leave sometimes because of like personal relationship issues in the office, just like their boss that they really can't get along, or their colleague. It does happen, but what I'm saying is that it's not a good answer, right? When you actually go to another employer.
I think when the employer asks you, or why did you resign, you shouldn't really like go in too deep on the real reason why you actually resign. Like if, let's say this is a negative reason, right? Like what you said, you don't really like to work with someone. Maybe you can just paint it like, you prefer a more collaborative environment and your company seems to be able to provide that to me, and that is what I want, So focus on what you're looking for in the company instead of like why you left.
Yeah, actually that's a good point, Eleanor. You kind of flip it. Every negative can be flipped into sort of like a positive. So if you feel like your current place, the people around you are uncollaborative, then you can say, I'm looking for something more collaborative. So you're in a very indirect way. You're speaking the truth, but you're positioning it in a more positive manner.
Yeah. So your last part, right? Be honest or say something else. I would always say be honest. Be honest about the situation, but don't vent. Like an interview is not a counseling session for you to vent your anger or like your whatever you're not happy with. Just describe the situation, glance over it enough to put context. Like what Eleanor gave an example just now, like people I'm looking for more collaborative environment. My previous team did not really manage that, so that's why I'm looking forward for a new opportunity that allows this more collaborative. So don't go into detail unless they ask you a little bit more about the detail, right? Then it doesn't seem so negative, like you're airing the company's dirty laundry. All right, that's it. Can you like something to say? But like,
I think just like echoing what you guys say is, I think the most important thing is to be forward-looking. instead of putting the blame on what happened in the past, tell them what you are looking for in the future. And I think at the end of the day, the most important thing, you don't lie. You don't need to tell them everything, but it's very important that you don't lie because they will find out some way or the other. So yeah.
Yeah, don't lie, definitely. People can detect it if you're not being honest in any case. So always tell the truth. Again, tell the truth, just like make sure you position it more in a positive manner and more future looking rather than like sort of venting in a negative way about previous employer. Because they're not your friend, by the way, they're an interviewer. And they may sympathize with you when you're telling the story, but it will also influence the decision whether to hire you or not, so just think of it in those terms.
Do we have time for another question?
Well, maybe let's do one last one. Let's squeeze it in.
One last one, right? So just wondering, do job seekers with employment gap have lesser chance to be called for an interview? What is actually the perception of employers towards candidates from this category? Thanks.
It seems to be a very common question that we're getting.
I want to comment first. So,
okay.
Sorry, Kenny. When many years ago, when I started doing recruitment about 8 years ago, and maybe almost 9. And at the time, it was fairly uncommon for job seekers to leave a job without securing their next one. It's very rare, right? So if you've left the job before securing your next one, right, it's almost like, oh, what happened? Why did you leave? It was a very big question mark. Most job seekers would only resign if they have a new job to go to, right? That's the case. Recently, this actually been more common though, to my surprise. I actually find it more common that job seekers actually left their job before they secure a new one. Like maybe 8 out of 10, I would even say it's that high. It's so common. And I think because of that, it may not affect you as negatively, more because it's becoming increasingly common now. But I would say that the action of leaving a job before securing the next one is not a good thing in general. So this is my general advice. Like, just don't do it, especially in the current economic climate. It's the reason why it's becoming a bit more common of late or recently was because I think we went through a phase where it was easy to find your next job, right? People were confident they could find the next job within 3 months, 6 months, but it may not be the case now. So don't do it, avoid doing it.
To sort of like echo on what Derek said, if your employment gap is like just like maybe a few months to a year, it's not that surprising anymore. It's quite common. But if it's like 2 or 3 years, which is really longer, then perhaps people will they're not actually negative, and not a negative impression, but rather people will be curious. What were you doing during that time? And you actually have a reason to justify. Oh, I was taking a break, or I was focusing on taking care of my family. Then actually it doesn't matter. Essentially, the employer will just be curious, and I don't think it will actually affect your chance of being called in for an interview, as long as you have the necessary skills for the job.
I think if you were to point it out in the summary, that would be better. At least in your short summary, in your CV.
Addressing the elephant in the room.
Yeah, I mean, if the elephant is really big, right? Like, it is so clear that you had a big employment gap, maybe you might need to justify it. If let's say you have been trying to apply for jobs for the longest time and then like people don't call you in for interview, maybe that is the reason. And then try and change it up a little bit. Maybe put that in your summary. Maybe then employers who are going through your CV would be more forgiving, or like would call you in to understand more of the situation. Yeah, things like that.
Yeah, so as an example, to illustrate Eleanor's point, let's say if you took a break because you needed to take care of family, or you have a newborn child or something like that, just a simple summary at the top saying that I'm a professional accountant, who had a career break to take care of my family, now looking to come back. Something very, very, very brief, so someone look at it will understand that it was voluntary. You had a voluntary break, but it was for a valid reason. So not everyone will interview you, but you increase the chance of someone looking at it and say, oh yeah, sure, let's interview this person.
Yeah, so that's our advice for you. And that's also all the time that we have today. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us in this session of pop-up Q&A. So I just want to highlight it again for those of you who have missed out in the very beginning. So Shopee is currently hiring right now. Shopee is a leading e-commerce platform in Southeast Asia and in Taiwan. They're also one of the most recognizable brands today. So if you want to join their team and grow your career, go to wobbjobs.com/Shopee. I do realize that there are some questions that unfortunately we were unable to answer during this session, but don't worry about that. Kenny, perhaps you want to point out what Upwork is?
So for anyone whose question we didn't get to answer, or if you have actually more questions that you want to ask, you can head over to wobbjobs.com/Offwork. Offwork is actually a Facebook page, a Facebook group and a community that we built for people to ask career questions without any worry. And you can actually get opinions from not just us from the WOBB team. We actually have some mentors from other places, and you can even get opinions from other people who are experiencing the same thing as you. So if you're interested in interacting with other people and asking your career questions, head over to Offwork and join us there, and we'll actually be answering your questions for the next 30 minutes or so. So we'll see you there.
All of us will be in the group, so see us there. All right.
All right.
Okay.
See you guys.
Bye.
See you next week. Bye. Bye.